Welcome back, everyone, to another beautiful episode of the Gathering Movement interview series. I am so grateful to be in the presence of a dear friend, a dear teacher today. So welcome, Agi. Podcast. But my question was, how does your work empower people to be the leader of their own life?
First of all, thank you for the invite, and I admire your work. I just really love what you do, and we have been connected in the past probably 2 years, and we had a lot of opportunities to practice yoga together and share a lot with the people who surrounded us in those classes. And I think it's really important that we help people to just spiritually and to, in general, grow up to their own capacity and to their own life. And at the beginning, when I started to little step by little step walking the way of yoga, I had no idea that I was going to influence so many people's lives. Because at first I really started to do yoga and chanting and meditation for my own selfish benefit, because I had a very bad accident. So I just wanted to walk again. And with every kriya, with every sequence, with every single time I sat on my meditation cushion, the world started to open up. And more of my own power hit me. And I started to work with the power. And once you learn this power, and once all the miracles start to unfold for you, and you just realize how fast your thoughts and your manifestation work, you just want to share that. It's so natural. You don't even have to think about it. You just become the way for others.
Do you feel like we have to have this experience first for ourselves to then go on and be the teacher of it?
If I just read the power, the capacity about Kundalini, the nerve of the soul, if I just read that in a book, I would not be able to teach it or show the way, because unless I know how to access this force, it's hard to describe.
I couldn't agree more. And one of my favorite teachings in Kundalini is that your experience is the greatest teacher of all. And I found that just to be true in every aspect of life, actually. And most of the time growing up, when we're going to school, we are only learning things in a book. But it's not until we have the experience of something in our life, whether it's a blissful, beautiful experience or a very challenging experience, that we truly, truly learn.
Right. Absolutely.
For you, how did you find yoga, or how did yoga find you?
So let's go back 18 years. I just celebrated my adulthood in spirituality this October, in 2002, in the peak of my happy life and career. I lived in Europe back those days, and I had my little perfect life and a great career, and I fell from the horse on a frozen ground. And in a split second, my whole life shattered. Not only my femur, my knee joint into like a puzzle, like 100 pieces, but my whole life, everything. And the doctors actually contemplated above my own head whether they should reconstruct my leg or just cut it from the knee below. And those moments brought me back to the here and now, like nothing before. And when I was present with a lot of pain after the reconstructive surgery, and the doctor came in and told me, okay, Agnes, we did our best, but from now on, it's you and God. And before him, no one ever mentioned me God, because my dad was working in a communist country for the government. So I was not allowed to go to temple, to churches, to nothing. We couldn't even mention God, because if someone learned, he would have gotten fired. So I never heard the word God. And this person, this great super doctor, tells me that now it's me and God. And I was like, okay, if it's me and God, I'll have to figure it out. And yoga was offering God in a lot of scriptures and books. And some people who practiced yoga around me, they were mentioning God and they were praying to God. So I thought that this path would bring me closer to God.
So true. Wow, I didn't know that your dad worked for the government, and I can only imagine growing up during those times and not even knowing this word, not even knowing what this truly was. So when you had that experience, you must have felt like your whole world was not only shattered, but opened. So what happens then?
And if I may share with you, because I never told you that my dad had a very responsible position, and I was brought up in strict circumstances. We were living a good life, but emotionally and spiritually, none of us in the family were thriving. And I have to say that looking back, and I wrote a book about this and the feminine, it's called I wrote it in Hungarian. So it's called Woman, the Nucleus of Life. And in one of the first stories, I share with everyone that as I look back into my early femininehood, my early teenager years, I was always I got hooked on something that I tried to fill my hole with. And growing up without God, or growing up without the soul and the closeness of our true being, it leaves a lot of empty space and a lot of black holes. And whatever we do, all the addictions and all the relationships and everything tries to bring something into this deep, vast, painful hole. And it's just temporary. It feels good for 2 hours, for 2 days, for 2 years, and then the hole is back again, open wound.
I couldn't agree more. And I've had similar experiences growing up as well. And it wasn't until I also found, or yoga found me, as I like to say, that I was able to realize the truth of who I am, of the deeper parts of me as well. So thank you for sharing that. To you, what does the word, or what does Kundalini mean to you?
So just as most people who come to me hearing about Kundalini, that it has to do something with the serpent or like a spiraling energy. Sometimes people think that it has to do with Cobra pose, with Bhujangasana. It can only happen in that position. I had no idea. But when Kundalini found me, and I'm going to steal or borrow your expression, because I also feel that I did not find yoga. I did not find Kundalini. I was just basically ready. And I had to say yes to step over that doorstep and merge into the practice. But so when Kundalini Yoga found me, I already thought that I was the greatest yogi. Like I had the major hatha yoga poses. I could walk on my hands. I could do any kind of headstand with any leg variations, holding for even 20, 25 minutes. I was actually competing with my friends and fellow who can hold the headstand Shirshasana longer. And then with this great spiritual ego that we all go through this phase, because these poses, when we unlock the blocked energy through the body, through the energy bodies that we have, we don't know what to do with these forces. And it goes into our head because energy is going upwards when it has to do with spirituality. That's the way, right? In and up. and it goes up into the head. So we all start to think that we are God, and in a way it's true, and it's a great realization. But then eventually we realize that we have to use this God force or godliness towards good things, whatever resonates with the universe, and it means uplifting big and small. So when Kundalini Yoga found me, I thought that I could do everything. And then I remember until now that Gurumukh Karkalsa had us holding a back band like this with breath of fire for 3 minutes in the deepest back band. And because of my ego, I stayed, but I probably thought 3 times during that 3 minutes that I was going to break like a stick, but I stayed because my ego was strong. And when I came back, miraculously, my tears started to just uncontrollably fall out. And I went into a trembling, a shaking that I never felt before. Like all my nervous system was signaling me that this is where your next phase lies. This is what you have to work on. And then it hit me that, okay, I think now I'm going to do Kundalini Yoga.
This is it for me. That's pretty funny. I love that share and that experience of the ego and how it comes into play, and how it's really the greatest teacher for all of us, because we're able to realize why something is coming up for us, or why we feel like we need to be the best at something. So I appreciate that. One thing I would love for us to talk about is the importance of a spiritual name and what your spiritual name means to you.
So, because pretty much everyone in Yogi Bhajan's world, or the 3-age-old world, everyone has a spiritual name who wants to teach Kundalini Yoga. I also signed up because I thought that this is how it goes, right? And I had no idea that when the spiritual name comes, what it really going to mean to me. So I open up the envelope and I see Bir Akal Kaur. And before me, all my friends and fellow teachers who asked for a spiritual name, they all got beautifully sounding, melodious, very soft, like Shiva Shakti Kaur or Sat Shakti Kaur, or something that was really like really nice. And I get this Bir Akal Kaur. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going to use this. And I see the translation and so every spiritual name has also layers, and I'm sure that it has meanings to us users or who identifies with the name in depth, in different dimensions. It means different things. So when I learned about it first, I thought that I was a constant warrior, because Bir means someone who fights. Akal means timeless, which means endless. So the first translation that was in my head is I'm a constant fighter. And then as time went by and I got to the Golden Temple, I went to India, I learned more about the language. This is not Sanskrit, this is Gurbani or Gurmukhi, what the Sikhs use in the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. So I learned that Bir also means the Bible itself that the Sikhs carry upon their head. And every morning they open it up and they take a message from God, from this sacred book. So Bir is the Shabad Guru, the Guru of sound. Everything, all the wisdom, which is in the book from enlightened beings. So basically with time, with meditation, working with the sound current, with the Shabad Guru, with the content of this great book, I learned that I'm someone who just endlessly through lifetimes bring the power of the word to the people.
I can attest. That is true.
Thank you. My guru.
Oh, hey, Guru. I remember telling you, I think I messaged you about my spiritual name because it brought me to my knees. It was such a moment of being seen. And I think that's on the most deep level. We all want to be seen. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel like we are enough. So to have that realization and reminder of something within me that maybe I didn't realize in my conscious mind that is within me, it was a beautiful experience.
So nice.
For you, you know, one thing that you've really made me realize in my own life is the importance of the practice, but also the importance of community. And you bring together such an incredible community of women, anytime, or men, that we've gathered. So for anyone listening, how can they not only start their own practice, but maybe find their community to practice with?
I never forget that at some point I moved from Hungary to the United States, and I was already a yoga teacher. I was for a while traveling back and forth, and I used to come when I had clients here, when I had workshops organized, and I also went to Hungary when it happened the same way over there, mostly Hungary, but also sometimes in Spain, etc. So when I had to decide where is my place, where are my roots, where I really have to just stay and start to radiate my essence. And I never forget that I was consciously, I wanted to find out with my thinking process how I'm going to invite people in. What is the marketing strategy? Because I was a marketing person and a PR person before, so I thought that spiritually works the same way. But I never forgot that Yogi Bhajan has a lecture where he says, where there is a Kundalini yoga teacher with a solid sadhana, with a solid spiritual practice, sadhakas, students, clients will just appear. So I realized that it does not matter if I'm going to move to the country in Hungary, any state in the United States, or any country in the mountains or near the beach. If I have my sadhana and I radiate my essence, my soul, I keep up with my practice, people are going to show up, whomever is ready for the frequency. That's all.
So simple.
Yeah.
So simple. What does your sadhana look like every day?
Very different. I have a 2.5-year-old. So before him, my sadhana was super religious, meaning every single day I would wake up 1 or 2 hours before the sunrise. This is called the Aquarian sadhana. In Kundalini yoga, we tend to wake up before the sun, because if we wake up with the sun or after the sun, our nervous system responds to the morning in a different way, and we might find ourselves in a different mindset or attitude. So we want to go before this attitude, and we want to create this neutrality for the busy mind, and we want to cleanse and clear and let go of traumas and thought patterns that had been sitting in our subconscious and unconscious. So I had that super religious, I did it hardcore, and probably that's why I managed to work through a lot of trauma from my communist childhood. And since I have my family, I just got married recently. I'm 45 years old, so just 4 years I've been married, and we have a 2.5-year-old. So our life significantly changed. So, for example, last night I got to meditate at the full moon between 3 and 4:30 in the morning, but I have to confess that it does not happen all the time. Sometimes my baby still cries for me, he looks for me. So my sadhana is whenever I can. sometimes at noon when he's napping, maybe walking with the stroller, and I'm constantly chanting my mantra. When he goes to bed at 10 p.m., instead of going to bed, I sit down and meditate. So whatever I can.
I appreciate that because I don't like all or nothing. I always believe that there's a little bit of this like middle kind of gray space. And I also think it's helpful for us to give ourselves the permission for the practice to look however the practice is going to look in our lives. And so many people won't do the practice because they think it needs to look perfect. But that's just not maybe maybe that's not what it's going to be for everyone, and that's okay. So really making it your own, which I think that you just gave us all permission to do so.
This is what my son teaches me the most, that nothing is ever perfect, but everything is the way it's supposed to be.
Wise rain. That's beautiful. For someone who's just listening to this, where can they begin their journey if they feel curious? Maybe it's just meditation, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's Kundalini, maybe it's mantra. Where can they begin?
I would say give it a shot. Take a Kundalini yoga class. Start browsing on the internet or on your Facebook, and you will find at least one Kundalini teacher amongst your friends, because there are so many, and that's a blessing. There are millions of yoga teachers in the world right now, so just take someone who you trust and sit with it. And if you don't love chanting, that's where your work lies.
It's so funny you say that, because sometimes at my women's circles, I'll have us chant, and I'll say, if you're new to chanting, welcome. Welcome. My husband actually just began chanting, so we're winning.
It's great.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So where can people find you? Where can they learn more about your work in the world in New Jersey? Where can they get to know you better?
We have a studio in Morristown, New Jersey, but obviously right now it's closed for probably another 2-3 months, but I teach on Zoom, and the studio is called YOGIN House of Kundalini. Also, my schools, or whatever schools came through me into existence for people who just want to be yoga teachers or who want to evolve in their own spiritual life. The yoga schools are called Yogin. And this name came from the Bhagavad Gita, although we mostly teach Kundalini, which is, I mentioned, it doesn't come from the Sanskrit tradition. It comes more from a newer coding system from the 1500s, which is called Gurmukhi or Gurbani. But the name of this school came from the Bhagavad Gita, and Yogin stands for someone who is able to resist the force of desire and anger even before he quits his body. He is a blessed man, a yogin. So when I read that in the Gita, in the main scripture of yoga, it just hit me so hard, because this only line gives us a lifetime of tasks. So I stayed with the name.
I love it. I think I added some of the links in the description of the video so everyone can learn more about Agi's work, the schools, the teachings. And I'm sure as soon as anyone dips their toes in the water, they're going to want more. So thank you so much, Agi. I'm so grateful that we could do this. I'm so grateful to have you as a teacher in my life, and just thank you.
Thank you so much for everything as well.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for being here today. We will be back on Thursday with another episode. We'll be learning about human design to discover your soul's purpose. So stay tuned, everyone, and have a beautiful, beautiful day. Sadhana.